Hi, I'm Dolen Perkins-Valdez, and I'm a historical fiction writer. When I'm not writing, I'm teaching. When I'm not teaching, I'm playing with my kids. But the place I love to be the most is in the library. I love to read historical fiction. It just transports me. So I decided to start this book club. Here together, we will read stories featuring women's histories. We'll talk to writers, we'll have discussions. It'll be fun. Come on and join us. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Dolen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Do you? I'm really good now. I'm really good because do you know I got to talk to you for your launch, and that just was not enough time for me. So, thank you for letting me crash your wonderful book club and for doing it again. For
Well,
doing
thank
it again.
you for suggesting this. I said before I wasn't going to do this, and then, it was your idea, and then people started signing up for it. So I'm so glad that I have a friend like you who supports me and who cares enough about me to say, Dolan, let me turn the spotlight back on you. So I'm so grateful for that, Victoria.
Oh, well, you're welcome, but I only did it so I could talk about the book. I am obsessed with Happy Land. So let's get into it. And I've got to go do some of the basic stuff because there may be people who don't know too much about it. I doubt it, but we should
Okay.
always start with the foundation. And so, of course, tell us just a little bit of what the story's about.
So the story is a dual timeline story set in the past in 1873, 1883, late 1800s, and the contemporary storyline is basically now. And it's about a place that actually existed in Western North Carolina where a group of freed people walked up the mountain from South Carolina and established a community. They called themselves royalty. They named a king and a queen, and they created this self sufficient um, community. In the contemporary storyline, Nikki finds out that these folks, or the queen in particular, were her ancestors. And
Yeah.
so it's a story about the kingdom of the happy land that actually existed in Western North Carolina.
I love it. And it actually existed. And so I
Actually.
love learning that history. How did you first come across it?
So I always say that I come across these book ideas just living my life, just being a human. I'm not like, it's very hard. And I know you know this, Victoria. It's very hard to go looking for a book
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
You have to just, be who you are, be curious about the world, talk to people, um, run ideas by people, and also there's a little bit of luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So during the pandemic in 2021, I was teaching myself the banjo, and I know, craziness,
I can't believe
insanity.
I didn't know this part.
Insanity. I said for my paperback tour, Victoria, I'm actually gonna play.
Oh my
I'm gonna do it.
gosh.
I'm gonna do it. And actually, when I did my event in Winston Salem, I had a local Black woman, North Carolina banjo player play.
Oh,
Um,
that's so
isn't that
cool. That
neat?
is
Isn't
so
that neat? I'm gonna post. I have like a little video and pictures of her. I'm gonna post it to my Instagram.
that is so cool.
I know, very very cool. So I was looking up Western North Carolina musicians, Black, old time musicians, and I stumbled on this story, and I thought it was just like a old North Carolina newspaper, and I thought, is this true? Right? Like maybe this is just some kind of local legend. There was a
Yeah.
name that kept popping up, Ronnie Pepper, and I found like audio of him online telling the Happy Land story. So I reached out to him, and he said that it was true. And so we connected in the summer of 2021. And for the next year, we texted, we talked on the phone, we emailed. It still wasn't safe to travel.
Yeah.
And then the following year in 2022, I booked a flight and I went down to Hendersonville, and the rest is history.
I know. And that's why I said, how did you come across this story and not like how did you find it? Because find it, it meant going to dig for it. And that's not how we find our stories. We come across
Yes,
them, we
that's
kind
true.
of bump into them. So
That's right.
I think people think that it's something else. So when you found this man, and I think this is one of, not only do I love the story, and we're going to talk about the story, but Dolan, the thing that I'm most impressed when anybody asks me what's my favorite book this year, and I mention Happy Land, and you're not there, so now you know, it's
Oh.
because of the research you did, and how I'm so impressed with some of the research that you did. It will be part of the historical record now, you know. So can you tell
Yeah.
us about it? Because one of the things of listening to you, so reading the book, I learned one thing. But
Mhm.
listening to you as a writer, I'm learning even more about research because I depend on the historians.
Mhm.
You, and so when somebody says to me, Victoria, you're a historian, I'm like, oh no, 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 don't be coming to me saying that. I just kind of I found other people's stuff. But you dig further than what somebody wrote in a pamphlet. So tell us a little bit about your research.
Well, let's just be clear. You do phenomenal research and you rely on the best historians. I mean, I think there's
Yeah.
historians and then there's historians. And
Okay.
so, and we all, and I always say historical novelists and historians are in conversation with each other. Um, and so I want to just put a shout out there to all these wonderful historians who help us novelists into
Yes, who
because
really do.
we can't build it from the ground up. We
That's
definitely have
right.
to rely on
But
the
but
historian.
you go a step further that makes me want to challenge myself.
Mm,
So tell people how you, because people are so fascinated with my research, you're going to
yeah.
blow them away with what you did.
Well, I think it all goes back to when I was in graduate school. I applied to be in a history class. It was a graduate level history seminar, and I was rejected. And the professor, I'll never forget, he was very well known. I won't mention his name. He said that I didn't have the prerequisites and he didn't know if I could handle the class. And I feel like ever since then, I have been trying to prove him wrong. Like
Ah,
my dissertation was in 19th century African American literature, which necessitates going into the archives. And so I was trained to do archival research. And then when I finished my graduate school, I had a postdoc, I had a president's postdoc at UCLA, and I was in the archives that year too. And I remember at my presentation at the end of the year, I kept apologizing and saying, "I'm not a historian. I'm not a historian." And there was a line of basically old men in the back of the room who were from the history department. And afterwards, they came up to me and they said, "Stop apologizing. You've done historical
yeah,
research here, and you are a historian." And I was very, lifted by that comment. And so, I when I'm working on a historical novel, I do read what the historians do, but I'm also looking for the gaps and I'm also trying to find, well, what did they not say? In this particular, or what did they not find? In this particular case, the definitive work about the kingdom was not written by a historian. It was written by a court stenographer named Sadie Smathers Patton, who published this pamphlet in 1957, over 60 years ago. And when I read the pamphlet, a couple of like light bulbs or red flags went off in my mind. I thought, one, she said that they came up from Mississippi. That didn't sound true to me. I mean, I know that freed people walked far looking for loved ones, but
yeah,
that wasn't the case with the kingdom folk. They were looking for a place to settle. Um, so I thought, like, wouldn't they have found a place to settle between Mississippi and North Carolina?
yeah.
There's a lot of mountains between there. Then, and then the second thing that raised my eyebrow was she said that William Montgomery, who was the first king of the kingdom, was originally an enslaver himself. That he was
Yeah,
the mulatto son of a white father in Mississippi, and that when he became 18, his father had gifted him with slaves and that he was a mulatto enslaver. And so that I thought like that was very, 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 very rare, right? It's almost
Yeah.
like saying, there were black folks who fought in the Confederate Army.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
maybe we were, forced to go cook for some Confederate soldiers because,
Yeah.
the person who enslaved us required that. But
Mm-hmm.
just very, very, very rare. And if we had ever been in the army, we certainly weren't going to be given a gun.
Yeah.
So something about that made me think I need to find out more. And interestingly, when I talked to Ronnie and when I talked to Suzanne Hale, who was another Hendersonville resident who joined us on this journey, they shared the same questions. Like it didn't make
Makes sense.
sense,
Mhm.
right? And so the three of us began over the next year. So in 2022, when I went down there for the first time, over the next year, we began to research. And so it was like a year of, me and Ronnie just talking on the phone and texting and me trying to find whatever I could online. And then the second year was actually, driving down to Spartanburg, going into the Henderson County archives, trying to figure out as much as we could. And the biggest thing we learned, which changed the path of everything, was that they weren't from Mississippi at all.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
from South Carolina, just a little over 60 miles away, and they were from Spartanburg County. And so once we understood they were from South Carolina, then we could say, well, why did they come up the mountain? Well,
Yeah.
there was clan violence down there. They were fleeing violence. We found newspaper articles about them with these terrible, terrible rumors that are in the book, and that caused them to fear for their lives. All of that sheds light on why they did what they did, why they were up in that mountain in that little pocket where people couldn't find them,
Yeah.
why they call themselves royalty as a way of establishing themselves as people worthy of dignity.
Yes.
So I felt like, and I have to really just give a shout out to Suzanne and Ronnie for sure. But I felt like knowing where they were from, why they came up there, what they were trying to do, changed the entire book and changed everything that we know about the kingdom.
Yeah, and that's why I said you have given us our history, because what you've done is you went. I don't look for the gaps in the historical fiction, or the history, not the historical fiction, in the history as I'm writing. And I think that's something that you've challenged me to do, and I hope other historical writers, because then a lot of things made sense. Like they kept going back. They were like Harriet Tubman and going back and getting others. That
Yes.
makes sense from South Carolina to North Carolina. A lot of
Yeah,
it
it made a lot
suddenly,
of sense.
a
It
lot
made
of
a lot
it
of sense.
made sense. When
Hmm.
you go back to get the others, they weren't, walking that far. Well, they were walking far. I don't want anyone to think they weren't
Right, but it
walking far,
wasn't
but
like
they,
1,000 miles. Right? It's like
yes,
60
yes,
miles.
and
And
yeah,
I will also like if I'm reading a historian's work, I always look at the back of the book at their source material, and I always go check it for myself, you
yeah,
know. And there have been times where I've been, reading something and the source didn't really corroborate what the historian said. So then I
yeah,
call the historian and or email them and say, "Hey, can you tell me how you found this or where you found this?" And then
yeah,
they'll give me a reference or maybe not. And then I think, okay, so this was conjecture, because
yeah, yeah. Which
historians can make assumptions and guess and infer things too. And so when I learned
exactly.
that, then I think, well, maybe there's something there that they didn't see. And let me go check.
And I do check too, because I don't want to take it as fact, but I'm always thinking they're smarter than me,
Oh no,
and in
they're
fact,
your
just a
partner.
their partner. And I think I'm going to be
Yeah,
doing a book signing with David Levering Lewis, who was my major historian for the novel. So I'm very excited about that. But
yes,
you are a historian to me. So now I want to talk the research. Fabulous. I do later on want to tell people about the website that you've done to show all of your historical gatherings. But now
yeah.
let's talk about the story. So I was very impressed that you had a dual timeline.
Mhm.
Because that is above me. That is so far above me. I don't know how people can do that without getting confused and what. And not you did it so beautifully, because their lives just intersected so much. I was so surprised at that. So tell us a little bit about Nikki, because we know more about Luella. But Nikki was your fictional part, right?
Yes, I didn't use any sort of research for Nikki. She was completely out of my imagination. She's not based on any real descendant at all. And but the historical part is very, very close to the research that we
Yes.
did. But Nikki is, my attempt to answer the question, why does it matter? Why
Yeah.
should we learn about the kingdom? What does it mean to us as contemporary people? And that was the question that I brought to the
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
Why did this matter? But you had Nikki in there to answer that question.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
how did you use her? Because I don't want to say what my opinion is. I learned so many lessons from Nikki,
mhm, mhm,
especially about why does it matter, and knowing the importance of knowing your family's history.
mhm.
The important,
Yes.
was that why you had her there?
Really, yeah. I mean, the importance of knowing your family history, the importance of knowing Black history, the importance
Yes.
of tiny little pockets. Like this was a very tiny little pocket of American history. And I wanted us to think about that and consider, why should we learn about this? Why does it deserve to be written about? And I often say that this book was my love letter to Henderson County,
Mm,
like, or Hendersonville, and then just the surrounding towns, has experienced what so many southern towns have experienced, and that's sort of the exodus of the young people.
yeah.
And I wanted those people who are from, and I've been hearing from people, they said, like, my people are from Henderson County, and I didn't know this, but they don't live there.
Yeah, they don't live there.
They left. And so I wanted those folks that have roots in,
Mm,
whether it be West Virginia. I'm hearing from people who are from West Virginia. I'm hearing from people from Tennessee, Kentucky, all kinds of, um, small town areas in the U.S. Wherever they're from, I want people to know that where you're from is special, you know,
yeah.
and no matter what that little nook and cranny might look like, there's something special that happened there, and it's up to us to go home and find that story.
Yeah. And you have done that with some people. Rashonda Tate is a dear friend of mine. She
Yeah.
read Happy Land, fell in love with it, and she was
Oh,
already very curious. She was
yeah.
already thinking about her next story, and she was thinking about, she's from Arkansas. And
Mm,
so
right.
she was wondering, she couldn't figure out how her family didn't have any land. And this is before she
Mm,
read Happy Land. So, she's just thinking about her family's
mhm,
history.
mhm.
Read your book, and it sent her back to track her things and seeing how her family lost land, lots
Yes,
of land.
yes.
And that is something that came out of Happy Land. Do you want to talk about that with because people didn't know how much land Black people had, especially after emancipation. That became an
Yeah,
important thing for us. But
yeah,
then we lost it, and most of the time legally.
yeah.
That was
Isn't that
something that,
something?
yeah, and sometimes it was through trickery, some of the things
Yeah.
that Rashonda's found out. But that wouldn't have happened if she hadn't read your book. I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. And she has a
It's
story there.
interesting. Like when we, I used to teach like an African American literature survey course in my early years of teaching, and it always wore me out because I had to teach history and I had to teach so much history just to even get to the literature. And I always said, "Ooh, anybody that even I can't even imagine teaching an African American history survey course because people come into those classes, and I'm talking about at the college level, knowing absolutely nothing. And so you really
Yeah.
have to start from the very, very beginning. When they say survey, I always said anything African American survey needs to be broken up into two semesters because one semester ain't enough.
Yeah.
And so when we think about like post Reconstruction period, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
after the federal troops pulled out of the South, typically what we hear about is lynching or mob violence,
Mm-hmm.
or we hear about sharecropping, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
living on someone else's land and, basically in this sort of like dependency on these white landowners. But what we don't often hear about is Black folks clamoring to buy land, which
Yes.
was happening. And we understood like land was the surest path to all the benefits of citizenship and enfranchisement. It was the surest path to wealth accumulation for your family and a life out of poverty. It was a way to feed your family because you could grow something on the land. You could have some
Yeah.
chickens. You could have some
Yeah.
hogs. You could,
Yeah.
um,
And you can grow the vegetables and everything.
grow
So
vegetables, etc. And so, of course, we were trying to have our own land. And of course, we did buy it. Some people were more successful than others. Some people had large plots, some people had a little plot.
yeah.
And but it added up. And, by the time it was all over with, we will have lost over the course of the 20th century millions of acres of land, like you said, through
Yeah.
both legal and illegal maneuvers. And we also estimate that the worth of that land today is in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so I think that is something to consider. I mean, a lot of people talk about, um, when we think now about what Black folks deserve, right? Whether it be affirmative action, whether it be DEI, whether it be, I
Repercussions,
don't know,
whatever. Yeah.
reparations, right?
Reformations. Yeah.
I think it's very important for us to know the history. We can't even
Yeah.
have those conversations if we're talking to somebody who doesn't know the history. And the question to that person is, so what do you think is fair based on what happened? And so there's that legislation that's been making its way through the states that's trying to help families hold on to their land. But this is, to me, a really important part of that historical narrative that I just want people to know. I just want it
Yeah.
to be in the conversation, and then let's have a discussion about these other things. If you don't know this history, then this what are we even talking about?
Yes, because all the things that Rashonda has discovered based on this was how much Black wealth has been taken away from us.
Yes,
Just totally taken away. So, this story to me is about family,
yes,
history, and the reason I love the historical part because that's what I live for. But the reason Nikki was so important to me, besides family
mhm,
history, was legacy. And
yes.
that's what Grandma Rita, was that her name, Grandma?
Mother Rita,
Mother Rita. I know it wasn't Grandma. Mother Rita, who was my favorite character in the book, even though I loved everyone. That's what she understood was legacy.
yeah,
And that's what she taught Nikki to
hmm,
me.
that's
That's
right.
what she taught. Why was she important to you? What was Mother Rita? I love that lady.
I know. She's my sassy senior. And by the way, I
So
want to say if anybody has any questions, put them in the chat,
yes, please, because
wherever you
we
are, and we'll try to get to the questions.
yeah, because
Um,
Gabrielle said that she really loved. Gabrielle said in the chat that she really did like the dual timelines
uh-huh.
because she said they were seamless and they crossed over so well. I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. Because usually when I'm reading the dual timelines, there's one that I like more than the other. I couldn't
yeah.
wait to get to each of their stories.
Dual timeline is hard, though. I will say. I
Girl,
don't know.
it's above
When
me.
I first heard of dual timeline, that it was like a thing, I thought, well, that's not new. People have been doing, points of view from different times before. But then I realized that the way that contemporary writers are doing the dual timeline, particularly historical fiction writers, is different. It is a
Yeah.
kind of different way of doing it. And The
And you have
hardest
to
part is
weave.
that they have to
They have to,
converge.
yeah, they have to converge. You have to weave, and
Mhm.
then you don't want them so far apart. They have to be
Yeah,
coming together. So you
yeah,
beautifully,
very, very
beautifully.
hard, very hard.
Yeah, so I agree
But,
with Gabrielle
but
on
you
that, but
asked me
definitely
about
good questions in there.
Mother
Yes, let's
Rita.
go back to
Yeah,
Mother Rita and her legacy. And she
yeah,
understood legacy.
yes, yeah. I don't know. She is to me. I feel like in my last three books, or three of my four books, I've had, senior ladies. And Take My
Okay.
Hand, I had the grandmother, Mrs. Williams,
Oh
and then in
yeah, with
um,
the
and then
girls.
in Balm, Madge's mother has sisters. It's the mother and the sister. And
Yeah,
they're
I didn't
all like
reckon. Yeah.
senior ladies. And I was a child that and my daughter is the same way. Loved being around my elders growing up. Like I was, I wanted to be around them. I would sit with my grandmother. I wanted to be with her, or, like my pastor's wife. I loved her and would sit with her. And even I have like really close girlfriends who are in their 80s.
Oh,
You know, we go to
I get
we go
it.
to the movies together. We go out to dinner, and they're like my friend. You know,
Well, I'm your
and
friend, and I'm a lot older than you,
you're
so
not that much older.
I'm a
I'm
lot
talking
old.
about the senior ladies.
No, I'm way past senior age. I'll be 70 in September.
What? Victoria.
Yeah,
Wow, I'm shocked, girl.
yeah.
You
So
shouldn't tell
you
people
just
that, girl, because you look 20, 30 years younger than that. I wouldn't even tell anybody that. Wow.
yeah. So you have old friends. I'm one of your old senior
Oh
friends.
my gosh. Well, you don't act like a senior.
I know. I know. I don't, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I can't figure that part
That's
out yet.
good. That's good. That's good. You still got your mojo.
Yep. I still have that.
Oh,
So
I love it.
yep.
Yeah,
So
well,
go back. Yep. So
oh
you were
yeah.
saying
So
that you
I
like.
just
So
wanted,
I know you like
yeah.
old people. I know you do.
Oh, you're so funny. Well, you know what? Actually, I feel very much like I don't feel age is a barrier in any kind of
Yeah.
way. I never have. And so even when I was like a little girl, I had friends who were 2, 3 grades ahead, or even younger. Like I have one of my former students she's in her 30s. I always invite her to everything, and she's so fun, and she's my friend, and she's awesome. So with Mother Rita, I just wanted to have this character who was a conduit to the past. She holds the family memory, like, as the book goes on, she shares things that she remembers that her mother told her and that her grandmother told her.
Mm.
And she's sharing those things with Nikki, like, they say Luella loved two men. And so those are the kinds of things that I think we get from talking to people who transcend generations.
Yeah.
And I also just wanted to represent her with dignity, like every Southern senior lady I've known who was underestimated. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
so she's a reader, and she's a vegetarian, and
Vegetarian. All the things you just didn't expect. I loved
yes.
her.
Yes,
I
I remember, when Bell Hooks passed, and we learned that she had been a vegetarian for so many years, and I imagined her in like the 70s, cooking vegetarian food, wearing caftans, writing these amazing books in the 70s and
yeah.
80s, and an intellectual, you know, and a feminist, and I thought there were women of that generation, even in Take My Hand. Sybil's mother sister, her aunt, is like an intellectual psychologist. Smokes weed. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like has a very new age. There were always these like black women who were absolute. intellectual powerhouses, you know. And so I wanted to represent that with Mother Rita. And I like the fact that she didn't go to college, because not all of those
Yeah.
women that I knew went to college, but they were smart,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
I
And
like the fact that Nikki didn't go to college.
yeah.
And I don't know why. I because she
You
was
know,
still
because we don't
smart.
read that very often. Like, I think there's a way in which a lot of literature is bougie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know
I
what
just
I
wrote a
mean? Like,
whole I just wrote a whole book on a whole bunch of bougie people. So I
oh, those were the bougiest of the bougies.
yeah, I didn't realize it until it was over. So I get it.
Oh,
I
that's
do. And you
hilarious.
know, that's a good point because I have never written a person
Yeah.
who didn't go to college. And so maybe that's what I
You
loved it about.
haven't, in all of your books, you've never written a person who didn't go to
Not my
college?
major, not the major character. No,
That's
no.
interesting.
And so Nikki stood out to me
Yeah. Yeah.
because she was as smart and as bright and as ambitious as,
Yes.
and still had all of her flaws and her doubts. She was as smart as any of the characters I've ever written.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I embraced her so much. That's why I loved her. I love Luella. I love them because it is something rare. And I went back and looked. I do not have one, not one
Well,
character.
I do think that, like, there's value, particularly when we're writing Black characters. There's real value in college educated characters, right? Because we're beating back stereotypes,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
those characters were not traditionally represented in, fiction in the way
yeah.
that you represented them. But I think it's also important to recognize, people who were educated without being formally educated
That's
too,
right. That's
you know,
right.
and that's a thing too, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, you know, people like this. I know, like, some people I know who don't have college degrees are more well read because they have something to prove,
that's right. That's right. That's right.
and they can tell you anything. They've traveled, they read the paper, etc. And I always find those people very, very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Because
thought
they
that's
have a
why.
different viewpoint.
And you know, not only a different viewpoint, but I think I told you this. I learned from Nikki in this book. You
Mm,
know, I really learned from her. I really thought about, I told you what we're going to do now. We're going to move forward with some things with
yeah,
my own father's land. And so I learned from her. And
yeah,
that's what I love about historical fiction. When you and I met all those years ago, you were
yeah.
already writing historical fiction because you wrote one of
Mhm,
my favorite books, Wench. I was
mhm.
still writing books that ended up on Lifetime TV. I was not here. I know why I'm here now. Why do
Yeah.
you write historical fiction?
Mm. You know, I feel connected to the ancestors. Like, I just do. I feel like they speak to me. I feel like I have a gift of listening, you know, and I feel like it is my God given duty to put down on paper what they tell me. Because
Mm,
when I research and I start putting pieces together, and I start, you know, after I've like gone through all the newspapers and all the census records and the birth certificates and the death certificates and all the different things I pour through, and read the, the historians' books, and, you know, journaled about it and interviewed people. After all of that, everything feels very clear. I just have a
yeah,
way, like, there's, like, I remember
yeah,
I was down in Hendersonville one time, and Suzanne asked me, I forget where she wanted to take me that day. She said, "Do you want to go some such and such a place?" And I said, "No, I think I have everything I need." And I hadn't started writing yet, but I knew I had everything I
you
needed. And she said,
knew.
"How do you know? How do you know?" And I said, "I just know. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
I just know I have everything I need, because I was itching actually to get on that plane so I could get back to my desk and start writing,
yeah,
because it was
yeah,
coming very, very quickly." So I feel like, when I first started Victoria, when I published Winch in 2015, no, wait, what year was it? 2010, 15 years ago. Some people were resistant. They said, oh, we don't want another slavery novel,
Yeah.
or we've already read slave. It was kind of like there's this idea that if you've read one slavery novel, you've read them all. You know, and like, but like other writers don't have those kinds of constraints.
Yeah.
There's 150
There's 100
war
World
novels,
War II. There's
100
100 World
War
War
II
II now.
novels, tons of Holocaust novels, tons of novels about, women in World War II and soldiers' regiments. Like there's so many, but it feels like sometimes Black writers are put in this, well, we've already read that story, but
Yeah.
don't you know that we have only cracked the
We
surface?
haven't even told the stories because Winch was something that I didn't know when I read
Yeah.
that and how
And there's
they
so many
traveled.
more.
And then I read Yellow Wife by
Yes,
Sadiqa Johnson, another thing I didn't know.
that's
And
right.
like you said, we haven't even scratched the surface.
There's
So
so many
there's so many stories to tell.
stories.
There's so many
So
stories. I could
many.
probably write 10 books on the Harlem
Yeah.
Renaissance and I wouldn't scratch the surface. So I
That's
agree with
right.
you.
That's right.
I, I agree. We would just be, because it's only 10 books. It's not that
That's right.
many. If
That's
you
right.
haven't read 10 books on slavery, you haven't read anything on
That's
slavery.
right. And we haven't even cracked the surface of the 1600s in slavery.
Oh, yeah,
Most
I
of
know.
the, novels about enslavement are 19th century, but what about the 17th century? Let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
that's great.
I feel very much like there's space in this genre for all of us. There's space for more stories. There's space for more voices, more writers. Anybody that's listening and wants to write historical
Yeah.
fiction, come on in. You know,
There's so much room.
so much
And
room.
I love the fact that I'm writing historical fiction now and you and I are in the same place with the same publisher and the same team,
Yes,
and it just makes me so happy.
it is
It just
full circle, right? Like we
I
met all those
know.
years ago,
Who would have
and,
thought?
now
I
it's
would
almost like we're co-workers.
Yeah, it really is. It really
We're
is.
on the same record label.
I know. Gabrielle had a question that I know the
Oh,
answer to, but I
okay.
want you to answer it because she said, is there any part of you in the characters of the book?
Always. There's always me in there, but I always say that my protagonists are always me for sure. So Lizzie, Madge, Sybil, and now Nikki. And the reason I say they're me is because all of my protagonists are women who are smart but don't always make the best decisions.
Yeah.
And
I
that
can
is
see you
me.
as Sybil. I didn't see you as Nikki, but I can see that as Sybil.
Nikki, actually, I may be closer to Laurel because or I was telling somebody the other day, I may be closer to Laurel because Laurel leaves home and doesn't go back. I left home and didn't go back. I'm the Southerner that left. You know,
Yeah.
not on bad terms
Yeah.
or anything like that, but my experience is closer to Laurel's. And so yeah, I would say like, but for the most part, they're all like, I mean, even for Nikki, like she is smart, but she just can't figure things out.
Yeah.
She's having a hard time. She needs Mother Rita as much as Mother Rita needs her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. More. I mean,
More.
Mother Rita needed her physically, to help
Yeah.
get, but Nikki needed Mother Rita emotionally,
Yeah.
spiritually, all kinds of ways that were going to last with her beyond
That's right.
the end of this book. Because I'm still thinking that they're living and they're real and breathing people,
I know.
because
Isn't
they
that
have
the best thing when you close a book and the people are still alive?
they're still alive, and this has been alive with me because, as I said, Nikki taught me a lot of lessons on things that I absolutely have to do myself, and
Yeah.
remembering family history. And that's why I do historical fiction now,
Yeah.
because I want to give those lessons and then the legacy. So I know that you didn't sit down and didn't sit down to write and say, I want this person to learn this lesson. I want this person to learn this lesson. But at the end, and especially now that you've been out there talking about it a little bit more, are there things that you really would like people to take away from this book?
I mean, I just want people to, well, I'll say this. I would like people to do their own family genealogy chart. I
Yeah.
would love to see more people putting some time into working on that. We all have like a sketch of one, maybe like some young person in the family has gone on ancestry.com and they've started it. But there's a lot, you got to check those young people. There's a lot of erroneous information they're getting in there. Go on in there and help them out if you're a person that can help. But I say like I always say like you don't have to know everything. You
Yeah.
only have to know enough to make a difference.
Ooh. Yeah, and make a difference in your family. And you've made a difference with me with wanting to what we're going to do with my family. You made a difference with Rashonda, who was already going down that road. That
Mm,
was one of the things she
yes.
wanted to write about.
And
And
she
I
must. Arkansas, that's my neighbor from Tennessee, and there's so much to tell there.
Yeah, but there's so much to tell in her own family of Black wealth that has been taken away from them.
Yep.
And I think these are the stories that need to be told,
Yes.
that really need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because like you said, we're only scratching the surface if you got
Just
10 of the
scratching
same
the
novel.
surface. Just
Just,
scratching the surface.
yeah. So have you already started thinking about what's next for you?
Yeah, but it's hard because I'm still promoting this one.
Yes.
And so, but I do have an idea. I've been sketching in my notebook, and I'm gonna just work really hard. I'm already behind on my deadline. I'm supposed to have a few pages done, and hasn't happened. But I am looking forward to the summer. Once things slow down a little bit, I'm gonna get back to my desk and get back to work.
You know what I love about the kind of historical fiction that you write, that it's not, and this one maybe a little bit, but it's not person centered. Like the kind, you're not writing biographical novels. You're taking situations and circumstances and
Mm-hmm.
putting them, and because of that, then I think you get people thinking broadly. You get people thinking about their families. You get people thinking about doing ancestry. You get people with Take My Hand looking up the situation of
Mm-hmm.
Black children, because that's what they were,
Mm-hmm.
being sterilized and people being shocked that that kind of thing happened. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just want to tell you that every single book that you have written takes
Mm-hmm.
me down a different road of personal history.
Mm.
And I thank you for that.
Thank you, Victoria. That is so powerful coming from you. And I'm just going to hold that close tonight because that's powerful.
Well, I didn't mean for it to be powerful, but every single one, you're not making me think about a person. You're
Yeah.
making me think about a situation. And I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I don't know if situation is a big enough word, but you're making me think about a concept of circumstances and everything, and then applying it to my own life.
But that's the part that's getting me when you say your own life. Because that means if other people are feeling that way, that means I'm doing something. If I'm reaching people, because everybody can easily just read a book and put it down and read another book, or read a book and put it down and go on with their lives. But if it's causing you to say like, well, let me look to my
Let me
family.
look at something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe let me hold on to this land that I thought I might sell. I've been hearing
Yeah.
that people will write me and say, like, I think I'm gonna keep this land. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, don't blame me if your family gets mad at you. But
No, but
that
I
to
think
me is the most powerful thing that fiction can do.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You're making it different, and those are the lessons.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't sit down and say, just this, and this, and you want people to do their own ancestry. But I think you
Yeah.
make us all look at our families in all kinds of ways,
Mhm.
and not just with this way, but in all kinds of ways. You make us look at our family and what we're doing right. And there is, and I'm not just saying this to your face. I say it behind your back. It is just really something to me that whenever you have a book that comes out, it's my favorite book of the year. And
Mm,
I'm not just saying that because with Take My Hand, girl, I knew more
yeah.
about the NAACP Image Award than you did because I was waiting for that award to come. And so it's just something, and I think it's because when I
Mm,
close the pages of a book by
yeah.
you, it's not the characters alone that stays with me. It's what it
Mhm.
makes me think about personally for me. And maybe that's a
Mhm.
selfish thing. I don't know,
Well,
but
I appreciate that. And Victoria, I've admired you, your career, and everything that you've accomplished. And, I know you're very humble and all, but y'all, Victoria is a rock star.
I'm not a rock
And,
star. This is not about me. This is
but
not
I'm
about
just
me.
saying, I'm talking to a rock star right now. And, I used to always say to you, like, I want to like do what you do. And I want to have as many books as you have. And, you've actually seen your books on screen. I mean, that's a dream for me. I've never had that happen. So the admiration is mutual. Just want you to
Yeah.
know that. And I
Well,
just feel like what a privilege for us to be on this journey together.
together. Yeah. Yeah,
What a
what a privilege for me to walk into, was it a Barnes and Noble? And I was like, you're Dolan
Yes.
Perkins-Valdez.
And
I
I
said,
didn't know who you were. And I thought, like, who is that
who is
saying
this
my name?
crazy?
I
Who
think
is
you
this?
were like at the mic or something.
Yeah, you're
And
like,
I just was walking by, and then I was like, it was so much love. Like from the moment I met you, it was like love. That
well, I
is
had
one thing
just,
I can say about you. You support writers. You are generous. You
this is not about me.
exactly who you are on camera is exactly who you are off camera.
This is about your book. I want to keep talking about half you, and this isn't about me. But I will say that that was fun to be. I was at my own book signing and to see you walk in
Yeah,
the
that was
store,
packed. That had
and and
you had
and
packed the
and I
room.
had just finished reading Winch, and so how I even
Yeah.
knew your picture or something, I don't even know. And then I couldn't even keep going because I was just so um impressed. Gabrielle said she likes hearing these stories about us.
Well, I
So
know people like it when we're just chit chatting. So this has been so fun. I'm like totally, my soul is full right now. So
Oh,
full.
good. I hope so. And I hope you know how much I just love this book. That I have so many questions and things and some, but you've answered some of the other ones I wanted to know because I couldn't figure out, even as a historical fiction writer, the fact of the fiction. So I've been like stalking you with your interviews and everything. So I was like, okay, so Nikki is all fiction, which I
Yeah.
love because I think the importance of Mother Reed and Nikki, I think the importance of that story is
Hmm.
cannot be ignored,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, because that takes everything that Luella did and created and gives it even in more of a foundation, more of importance.
Hmm.
So you need so I found that part out,
Yeah.
and there are other little things. I don't want to give any spoilers, but like I really want to know, how she got one brother to the other brother, and how much of that. Oh, Gabrielle wants to know about the cover art. Well, all I
Um,
know is that we are with the same publisher, the same team, which
mhm.
I love.
Mhm.
We only have different editors, but everybody else is the same team, and they are knocking it out of the
They
park with
are.
our covers.
They get it. They get it.
Because you know how much I love my cover, and then yours came. I was like, these
Mhm.
two need to be framed.
And Victoria got original art, Gabrielle. I didn't get original. She got like fabulous original art that is like I love the minute I saw it, and it's just so perfect for the time period. It was like
For
an
the
art.
time period. Well,
Perfect.
but again, when you say they get it, what they wanted to create was their own Harlem Renaissance piece.
Mhm.
So they got it. They
Very
weren't, yeah, to
Instead of
create their own.
recycling something, it just made a lot of sense to do what they did. I
Yeah, so
mean,
I
y'all,
would have never thought of
Berkeley
that.
Books is doing it right now. If you get an offer to go with them versus another publisher, choose Berkeley.
Choose Berkeley. Berkeley's doing it and they believe in us. And
They do. Yeah,
when you have a publisher that believes in you, it means a lot
it
because
does. It does.
yeah, they do more than believe, they advocate. And I
Mhm.
love that. I
But
love that about
I'm gonna tell y'all one little story before we go because I think y'all might enjoy it. So Victoria and I traveled to Atlanta for this event, and Victoria teaches me how to travel because I travel like a 21-year-old. Okay, I'm like, I got my headphones on. I'm in my coach middle seat. I'm like, just put me at the Marriott. I'm like very, you wouldn't even, if you saw me in the airport, y'all probably have seen me in the airport and you didn't even recognize me. Victoria
it.
goes to the airport lounges. She left me, y'all. We were supposed to be sitting next to each other. She left me and went to first class, got upgraded, and I'm back there in coach by myself. And then she says to me, like, she's like, she gets me in all the lounges. We go to all the lounges. We get to the hotel and, everything is, Victoria gets a better room. I get a room that smells like dog pee. And I'm like, why is like Victoria getting like everything good?
She
And so
travels like a teenager. I travel like an adult.
she does. And she made me realize that I am too old to travel like a teenager. So as soon as I got home, y'all, I was like, okay, I got to upgrade my credit card. I had the like same green American Express I've had since I was 18. And she was like, no, honey, you can't. Mm-mm.
Get the credit cards that get you in all the lounges. Because
It was
it
so much
changes.
fun traveling with Victoria. I'm just going to say it was
But
fun.
but you know what it is? We travel so much. And
Yeah.
I noticed that when I arrive, I feel
Uh-huh.
different when I arrive in first class than in coach. And I'm
Uh-huh.
not, I mean, and instead of being uptight and somebody's hitting you over the head with their suitcases, they're taking it out and
Yeah.
somebody, and I'm just happier.
I
when,
bet you are, girl. I bet you are. It's nice up there. The air is
yeah.
different up there in
I knew
first.
you were going to tell the teenager story. I thought you were also going to
I love
tell.
that story. I'm telling you, Victoria, ever since that trip, I have been doing better. You would be so proud of me.
I am so happy.
I'm
Yes,
not
because
in
I did.
first class yet. I don't have enough uh, points or whatever I need, but I have been doing the lounges
Perfect.
and I
Perfect.
have I get an aisle seat.
Yeah. You do. You're paying attention
Yeah,
to
I am.
all
I'm
the.
paying attention. And then I signed up for Marriott Bonvoy
That's right.
so,
That's what I have.
so that
Yeah.
I can get like late checkout and the free
Yeah.
Wi-Fi and stuff like that. But
And
that
that's
was
a
your influence, so thank you.
and Marriott Bonvoy with the checkout at 2 o'clock, no matter what, is
Yeah,
huge. So see, I thought you were also going to tell them that we were
which
in a
part?
hotel
Uh-huh.
that was like a strip club at the bottom.
Yes, there was like yes, that was still a strip club, right? That was in the
Yes,
hotel.
it was still is because they sent me back to Atlanta this year and they put me in the same.
Uh-uh.
And so I said to Lauren, our publicist Lauren, did you know that the hotel you keep sending me to has a strip club at the bottom? And remember, it's a middle-aged lady
Yes.
there or
I
something.
remember. But I think yeah, somebody told me that it was down there, but I didn't know if it was still a
It's
strip
still
club.
there. Yes. Yes, it's so bizarre because
It
that's
was
downstairs,
bizarre.
but the rooms are fine. So I did finally tell our
Ugh,
publicist, did you know that there's a strip club in the hotel that you have us at?
that's hilarious. Girl, knowing me, I probably wouldn't have even realized it because I just go up to my room.
Yeah, you just go and yep. I was like, you pay
But
attention,
I told
Dolen.
you, I was like, Victoria, my room smells like dog pee. Do you think I should ask
And
for
I was
another
like, get
one?
out of there.
Yeah. You were like, yes, you need to get it.
You need a new room. You need a new room.
I was like, does your room smell like dog pee? And you were like, no,
No, so go
no.
get a new room. Gabrielle said that she cannot believe that you were not signed up for the hotel royalty
I'm
program.
telling y'all, I was not. I
But you're
was
signed up for all the airline
now.
ones too.
Now I'm Hilton Honors, Marriott Bonvoy. Now I'm on everything. I'm trying to accumulate points to make up for
Yeah.
all of my past years of neglect of my travel. So
Yeah. So well, that's good. So well, that's fun. That's always
it
a
was
lot of
it was so I'm telling you, I came home a new person. You made me a new person because I love traveling with you so much. I was like, Dolan, you got to do better. You got to
you
do
got to do better because I do want everyone to know that I did leave her because if you don't have clear and TSA pre-check, I will see you in the lounge. I will meet you on
That's
the other
not right.
side.
That's not
I
right.
love you with everything in me, but
Uh-uh.
I will give you a new one of my kidneys.
That's
I
not
will
right.
I will fight. I will go out there and fight. I will do all of that stuff, but I am not standing in the line with you at the airport. I love you with you could have a kidney before I will stand
Uh-uh.
in an airport
That's
line.
wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. I thought we were friends. I thought we were
We
friends.
are. You got my kidney, but I am not. And I proved that to you. I was like, okay, I'll see you
Oh,
over there.
oh,
I'm
that's
not taking.
so
I'm not
funny.
taking off my shoes. No, not even, not even for you. And I love you. You could have a kidney.
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me cry with
So, but this was
that was
so much
so fun.
fun.
It
Thank you
was
for
so much
letting
fun,
me. Thank
Victoria.
you for letting me do this and
Thank
just
you
talk to you
for
again about.
suggesting it. I hope everybody enjoyed our conversation. I
I
enjoyed
hope so too. And I know people love this book. I was in I did the Christamore Guild event where they had 900 people this
uh-huh,
year, and there
uh-huh,
were four authors there, and it was Marie was one of the time we did Marie Benedict, Fiona Davis,
uh-huh,
and then our other Berkeley, Colleen, who did the one with us down in Atlanta.
uh-huh.
Remember, remember
Yes,
Colleen?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Love her
and
book.
so they asked us at the end, what book would we recommend?
Uh-huh.
And so Colleen went first and she took my book. She said Happy Land.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, really? Happy Land? You're going to steal my book? What am I going to talk about? So then by the time they got to me, I was the next one. I said, okay, she took my book, Happy
Yeah,
Land. And I tell people why, right off the top, why I love the book. I mean,
yeah.
it's going to be part of the historical record. But then I
Yeah.
had to come up with another book.
Oh, wait, before we go, I want to shout out the event that our mutual friend is putting on
Yes.
this Saturday. It's a great Mother's Day event. If anybody is in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, Saturday, May 10th is a wonderful Southern high tea. And you can find the link in my Instagram bio. Just Dolen Perkins-Valdez is my Instagram account. And the tickets you can buy, I think tomorrow might be the last day. So if you're
Yeah.
interested, come. It's going to be fabulous. They're making like a fragrance to go along with the book. There's going to be
Yeah.
swag bags. Trust me, y'all, it is going to be worth the ticket price. Saturday, May 10th, take your mom or a mother figure in your life. It'll be at Hill Prince Bar and Restaurant. All
And
the details.
the food look, oh my
Everything's
God.
going to be so fabulous. It's going
I
to be
am,
all the
I, you
details
know,
are
I'm
in my
sick. You
link
know,
in
I'm
my
sick.
bio.
You know, I'm sick that I'm not going to be there.
Where are you going
Uh,
to be?
I'm going to be doing a book signing at Alfred Street Baptist Church in,
Oh yes, in
yeah.
Alexandria.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
At the
wonderful.
exact same time.
Well, for those of you who can't make my event,
No, 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 no. No, you, Dolan, to yours because people are upset they didn't get to come to my Kennedy Center event. This
yes,
is the same lady.
the
I
same event planner.
promise
She's
you.
fabulous.
You don't even know she's having like a marketplace for you and all kinds of great things where people are going to go get to pick out what's in their swag. I mean,
Yes,
it's going to be such I cried that I'm not going to
yes,
be there.
yes.
So, but you have a fabulous in conversation person, right?
Yes, I'll be in conversation with Jacqueline Woodson, the MacArthur Grant winner, National Book Award finalist, fabulous, fabulous writer, and really, steward of the arts.
Yeah.
I've never met Jacqueline in person, I don't think.
Yeah, I've met
And
her.
so
I was so excited for you because
very
I was like,
excited about
I
that.
need to be the one. But I know I couldn't have 3 conversations with you. But plus, I had my own event.
We're gonna
And
have so
when,
many, so many things in the future with future books and future
yeah,
opportunities.
yeah, exactly. But I
You
was so
know,
happy that Jacqueline Woodson. So that
yeah,
should be. I'm going to be promoting this event over the next couple of days for you because
yeah,
it's going to be fabulous.
yeah.
So come out. But
Well,
Dolan,
thank
I
you,
love you so
Victoria. I
much.
love you too.
Thank you
And
for such a fabulous book that has changed my life and way of thinking and things we're going to do with our land. Thank you for Rashonda. I should have told her to come on here to tell you
yes,
how it's really pursued. She's really going to pursue this now,
yeah.
even with the story and all the ways her family lost their Black wealth.
Hmm.
And so, but it's all because of you.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that. I can't wait to see what Rashonda does and what she finds out.
Yeah, so this will be good. But you
Yeah.
keep doing this dang thing with
Thank
Happy
you.
Land,
And I will see you with our next adventure, wherever that may be.
wherever that is, and you'll be grown up flying.
Yeah, I'll see you in first class.
Just make sure, even if you're not doing first class yet, get the clear and the TSA pre-check.
Okay. Thank
So,
you. Thank
okay,
you,
thank you so
everybody, for
much. Thank you
tuning in.
everybody for joining.